Hey, good evening. If you're watching live, welcome to episode 174 of About the Cards podcast, live tonight on YouTube. As always, with host Stefan Loeffler at Junkwax Twins and myself, Ben Wilson, at Our Trading Cards. We are a podcast by collectors for collectors. We hope to bring you a smart and insightful podcast discussing trading card collecting. All cards tell a story. The story is more important than the card itself. This hobby is about the story. We are live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 Central on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
11 Eastern?
We are live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific. Steph?
10 Central. Thank you.
And for Biggs, 11 East. You follow us on Twitter and Instagram at About the Cards. We are available as a podcast everywhere you can find a podcast, and you can check out our website, aboutthecards.wordpress.com. One quick announcement. We actually had quite a bit of content this week. We even had some viewers and listeners send us a couple of different things to add to the show. Unfortunately, we couldn't get it all in. So there were a few late additions to the Hobby Talk section, so we have to push some of that stuff to next week. But if anybody did share something with us, we will definitely get to it in the next week or two, we promise. We want to welcome guest host Mike Biggans at Biggs Daddy Cool. That's Biggs with a double G. He hasn't been with us on the show officially at this 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern time slot ever,
Central.
And 10 Central. He did, however, on a Sunday Spotlight, I think it was many moons ago, when About the Cards had like 4 listeners. So we're happy to have Mike back, and from this point forward, we're going to refer to you as Biggs. Is that correct?
I appreciate it. Whatever you call me, just don't call me late for dinner, you know?
We don't have a problem with that on this show.
Definitely not. February 24th, 2019.
Oh.
So, and we started in the good old June of 2018. So yeah, good 8 months or so in. So, hey, it's good to have you back. We appreciate you staying up late on the East Coast for us tonight. First off, you have your own YouTube channel.
I do, and I've been a little inactive lately, but we had a lot of stuff go on in between that 1920 period and now. So, but we're finally getting back on track where we're going to get that going back up again.
And what is that? Where can people find you if they're not already liking and subscribing?
Biggs Daddy Cool everywhere. So wherever you see Biggs Daddy Cool, it's me. It's the BIGG.
So I told you, Steph likes that button. He likes that little bit of godlike power he has.
Well, he was doing the over-under on 15. I just had to give him 3 minutes.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Yeah, if you folloh us collectively, some of us on Twitter, you'll know that there was a kind of an inside public joke today about how long Biggs would last on the show with us tonight. What would he say to upset us and get kicked off? Referencing the old Chris Everett, Jim Rome, "Don't call me Chris because my name is Jim Everett" bit. So we had some fun with that. So what is new in your world of collecting?
Boy, a whole lot has changed, hasn't it, since that time? You talk about 2018 to today. 2018, honestly, was the modern day last time, people really, whoa, holy smokes, I killed everything. Cut me off.
All right, so that's Biggs.
That's
we
bad.
Appreciate all 4 minutes and 52 seconds of his presence on the show.
I've ruined the whole thing.
I mean, he told me to do it that time.
It's all right. We usually inadvertently do or say something to ruin it ourselves. So we appreciate you being part of the team tonight.
Well, that was bad news. So, anyways, where was I? 2018 was the last of the glory times for the modern times, I think. That was really like if we could go back in time to a recent time, there was a lot of stuff that we really didn't realize was just going to explode. I mean, take, for example, most of the stuff from that period update, and even Otani everybody was cheering for him, and it was big then, and then it went to Soto and Acuna later on in the year. But now looking at today, like what are we doing today? I've changed a lot. I used to open a lot of wax. I don't open as much anymore. I save it, and it doesn't. To me, I'd rather keep it, and I always saved some, but lately I've been not opening any of it. So that's just the difference in my collecting philosophy, and I don't mind collecting the unopened stuff now. That's a big thing. Filling in a lot of holes, of stuff that.
That's what she said.
Hey. But
if I had a button right now, I'd kick him out, but I don't.
That's see, there it goes. So, but yeah, there's a lot of focus. I think needs to be a bigger thing, not only with myself, but I think everybody. And I'm trying to get into that vein a little more.
It's funny that you mentioned the 2018, because obviously that's when our show started.
Mm-hmm.
And when we first started, we weren't not to say we're good now, but we literally weren't very good back then. And we're still trying to find our way and what's going to be interesting and what is the show going to look like. And honestly, is this show going to last any longer than just a few weeks? And one thing that we were talking about was really eye-centric. This is how I collect, so you should collect this way too. Or, we had some feedback early on where not everybody collects like you, specifically me, in the sense that I only buy singles and I'm team and player centric with just the Oakland A's or the the A's overall franchise with the vintage and pre-war. And the irony of it all was those comments were coming at us in 2018, and now we speed up as we approach 2022, and there are so many individuals that are collecting more like me, really focusing on singles and cutting back on wax. And I believe a lot of that is just the fact that, especially over the last 18 months, a lot of this stuff has been unavailable. At retail, you can't go buy your blasters, and
yep.
The whole market dynamics, the paradigm shifted, and it shifted so hard and so quick that if you were in a vehicle trying to take a corner at the velocity and the sharpness
of an unleaded swallow,
your vehicle would roll multiple times over, because it just doesn't happen that way. And it's really fascinating from an economic standpoint, and I know you also have some financial experience and background as well, to watch this unfold and go, wow, this is different than stock markets and real estate and other industries and other markets that we've observed over the last 5, 6, 7 decades.
Oh, it's incredible, like what has happened. And look at last year, we were building towards a boom anyways, but when COVID hit and the money hit and everything else happened, and everybody's sitting at home and people don't have anything to do, like it just went sideways like nobody could have expected. Like I said, everybody was kind of, if you knew a boom was coming. You know what I mean? Like you kind of felt it. Like it was starting to get a little more mainstream. People talking about it like they did in the late 80s, early 90s, especially. Like in 2018 at the National, you felt it coming. Like you could tell it was building. Like there was something on the horizon. And now, like I said, when 2020 hit, it was just like they shifted from first gear to fourth gear, and all that grinding in the middle. That's what we got. All those gears grinding, and things just upset, something ferocious. And I think that's good and bad. You talk about, different types of collectors, people that are collecting team-oriented stuff. Like myself, when I was, more on collecting pirates and so forth, today, like you can find that stuff, sans Cabrian Hayes, everything's dirt cheap. So that's a good thing too for some other collectors, you know what I mean? But because people were only looking at certain quote investment guys, So
By Jose Bautista,
well,
2005 Bowman draft.
well, I'm
He's a
sure I've
pirate,
got a
guys. That's a
couple.
joke.
Yeah. Well, and that's another thing. Things have changed since then for me too. I've not bought as many pirates in the last 3 years. Like you said, I started the YouTube and the podcasts and everything the same time, like 2018, and things have changed significantly for me. I don't buy as many pirates anymore because I'm completely disgusted with ownership, as most pirate fans are,
Sure.
and it's hard to stay on that track.
But
Yeah,
I'm sure it's been easier to transition from that into individual players or team, like individual team, like the 1979 Pirates.
Oh, sure,
Versus,
sure. And I've always, followed 79 Pirates. Of course, that was, when I was, a lot younger. But
so like 30.
yeah, I was, yeah, 20, 27. But no, but they were my team as a kid growing up. We wanted our little league uniforms to be black and yellow. Of course, they weren't. But I mean, like everybody loved the Pirates then, and you can't say that with little league teams today. uh, some of them aren't even following Major League Baseball, which is nuts. So it's just a different time. But yeah, I've the '79 Pirates. Yeah, I do feel that in, and you're right. That's the difference.
Well, like your autograph collection.
Well, I do have a '79 Pirates helmet that's pretty nice. I've got. I think I'm missing really that I can still get that are still with us. Three players. So
3 players. Who are the 3 players?
John Candelaria is the one. He stands out above
Sure.
all of them. He that was a tough in person situation twice I had with him and couldn't get him to sign it. Uh, who Grant Jackson's just passed, so technically he's not living anymore, so that disqualifies him.
Unfortunate. Sure.
Yep, and Enrique Romo is, and that he kind of disappeared. Like that's a weird story if you ever look into what happened with him in the early '80s. He kind of disappeared, and nobody's really seen a whole lot of him since the period. So, but yeah, a lot of the guys are really awesome. Like they tell you not to ever meet your heroes, but there's very few of the '79 Pirates I can tell you didn't exceed my expectations when meeting them.
Aren't you meeting 2 of them right now? I mean, on the show with it. I mean,
whoa, sure.
Well, himself and me, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, duh. So a question we've posed to every returning guest, new guest that has not been with us since the Fanatics announcement.
Sure.
What were your initial thoughts versus where you currently sit on that and what the hobby,
and
the direction we're heading?
Follow up to this, so
that's a great question. Because my initial thoughts, I think, were like everybody was panic in the streets, taking, burning your couches on the front lawns like they do in Virginia, kind of the uncertainty of that, right? But in that, like taking a moment and slowing that down a little bit, I think the Fanatics thing is actually gonna be a good thing, and there's a lot of people not gonna want to hear that. I think it's a paradigm shift for the whole industry. We're gonna see that they've already got distribution locked up, they've got sales locked up. The only thing they really don't have locked up is actually physically printing cards and designing them. And by the sounds of it, they're looking to bring people on that are good at that. Now, is that, like I said, good or bad for the hobby in general? We'll see. But I think changing the distribution dynamic as it stands now and the quid pro quo that we have with a lot of these distributors and dealers and, getting it down to the general populace, they're going to, I have half a feeling they're going to eliminate a lot of that. And I think that's got a lot of people very afraid. The middlemen might be in trouble.
No, they will be. I think the distributions, the Southern Hobbies, the GTSs should be looking over their shoulders.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of the breakers should be looking over their shoulders. Definitely the LCSs. Obviously, Sports Card Radio. Ryan and Colin over there have had some very dire and dim thoughts about that. But again, that's from the perspective of the individuals it's going to touch. From the collector's perspective, and to your point, I've always said this, and I don't want to get political, but I want to use this as an example. The president of the United States, regardless of who currently holds that office, does not have to be the smartest person in the room. They just have to be smart enough to delegate to all of the experts in their respective fields. And as long as you hire the right people and put the right people in place, regardless of industry, the CEO does not have to be, capable of doing everything. It's nice if they have experience with it. Sure. Presidents should have foreign relations experience, but they have the Joint Chiefs that they can rely on if they weren't military individuals. So your point about Fanatics, they have this, and this, but they don't have this. But that's okay. They can hire, when you've got a valuation of $18 billion, I'm sure you can add to your payroll and add very smart individuals that have resumes a mile and a half long. And, if I'm Fanatics right now, I'm going to get people like Dr. Jim Beckett on the phone and say, what would it take to hire you as a consultant?
Sure.
And help direct some things. And you hire people like him, using him as an example because he's so well known and synonymous with the hobby. You hire 5, 6, 7 of these people, even on just a temporary basis. That's what consultants are typically.
Yep.
What do we need? What would you recommend? How would you fix this, or this? And ultimately, I think that leads to a much more successful, Fanatics. Steph, what was your follow-up before we go into the next topic?
So good. Sorry, Selsky's bothering me in my ear here. No, a good follow-up, if you will. You've been collecting for a long time. You always talked about the 81 set being near and dear, and others. That year, infamously, we gained 2 other companies to the lineup. You get Donruss and Fleer producing cards, as well as at least officially producing. Fleer had been doing it for a decade plus at that point. But I guess my question would be, having collected during that year, can you draw any comparisons to what we're expecting Fanatics will roll out versus, I guess, maybe the close of the non-monopoly era into all under one roof versus the expansion in 81?
Oh, sure. And I'll tell you, the one thing that a lot of people talk about, Fanatics should buy the Topps brand names. They should buy the Panini brand names. They should buy Upper Deck. They should do this. They should do that. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think they should do whatever they want to do. And I don't necessarily agree. Would it be nice to carry on some of these name brands and so forth into the future? Sure, but I kind of like the different angle too. And the same thing with, your 81 season when you had Topps and Donruss and Fleer. Nobody and having collected slightly before that, and I've been reading SCD since 1980. So I was just a kid. My uncle would pass them on to me. 79, I think, was the first issue I got. And my uncle would pass them on to me, and I'm just, a kid at this point, single digits, getting into just reading that all the time. But people didn't know what to expect then either when Donruss and Fleer come out. And, there was a lot of similar feelings, like hatred. No, we're not going to buy this. No, this is junk. This isn't junk. And like this, I don't know that it's a bad thing if they go and put their own sets together and just do something different. And I think that's, if you ask the opinion on that, I think that's where they're going to go. I really don't see them clinging to the past. These are younger-minded individuals running this company, being hired by this company. I don't see them carrying on the old guard, and I think they're going to make a clean break, and I think it'll be exciting and different.
But the one thing is, Fleer and Donruss did have licenses and produced licensed cards where if Topps and Panini continue making baseball cards, for instance, they're going to be...
They'll be doing it the Panini route.
They'll be the TCMAs of the world at the time. TCMA, remember, they were making cards that were unlicensed, and there was a lot of other guys making cards that were unlicensed, and they were kind of, at the time, I really got to tell you, like, Panini has brought unlicensed stuff a long way from then. Back then, nobody would even look at an unlicensed card. Like, they were considered, pennies. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wanted them.
And the RGs of the world.
Yeah, I mean, and that really existed well into the 90s, before some of the unlicensed stuff, started to take a little hold. But it's really only been Panini that made unlicensed worth hanging on to.
Yeah, no, and just real quick, a follow-up. You talked about unlicensed cards from those eras, TCMA and others. Cannot track down anything on Rob Broder, so if anybody has a lead on that, we talked about it last week with Nick Vosbrink. Thought we were close on one, but it didn't line up timeline-wise. Seems like Rob Broder doesn't exist. So if anybody has an old order sheet, let us know. We'd love to follow up on that. Did find a telephone number out of San Jose for Barry Cola, which is disconnected, but I think it is, in fact, the Barry Cola that was doing a little research.
Make a day trip, Ben.
Yeah, he's another one that we would love to try to track down if either gentleman are still around and alive and well and would love to come on. So
that'd be fantastic.
It would be. It'd be awesome to, especially Broder, just because, So Biggs, what are your thoughts on this current modern day mindset of when someone gets we're going to quote, a good card, their first instincts are to jump on Twitter or Facebook group and say, hey, what's it worth? or, hey, should I get this graded? What's it going to grade at? Because that's literally what it just seems like everybody, and we're using that term loosely, not everybody, but a lot of individuals are hopping on with that mindset. What are your thoughts in regards to that?
Oh, and you're right. Anybody that follows the hobby on Twitter or any social pages, even, I once in a while now, I've kind of got away from Facebook, checking it out on there. Same thing. It's everywhere. It's not just there on Twitter. But, man, there's something lost there in the connection of either it's the player or the cards or the collecting. When people are going directly from the pack to the money, there's no emotional connection there. And I think the newbies, if you will, to use that phrase, the flipper world that's come into the hobby, that sort of thing, sneakerheads, whatever you want to call them, that's a different mindset that they have. They don't have an emotional connection to the physical item itself. And I think that's where I think a lot of that comes from, the nostalgia, the emotional part. And that's where certain things, and I was just thinking of this the other day, certain things like some of the Topps Now stuff, and we're starting to see it with, like, for example, the 2018 Soto stuff. It's starting to gain some traction as far as, quote, value. They're worth more than what you paid for them now. And some of that stuff, I think, as time goes on, people are going to look back at some of that stuff and, oh, I think I do want a card from the day that he did whatever, because that nostalgia is going to be there with that. And I think the true collectors are always going to have that nostalgia part, that nostalgic connection. That's where the flippers and whatever you want to call them, they don't have that. And it's obviously bad for the business as a whole, because if you don't create that constant demand, it's not going to be there in the future either.
Sure.
Yeah.
But I mean, for years, people in the industry said, well, how do we get the kids involved? How do we get the kids involved? Well, they're here. I think to your point, it could be shoes they're holding, video games, bottle of Tums. It doesn't matter what it is that they're holding. They just want the monetary value thereof to increase over what they paid for.
Sure. Why do I still
Seemingly.
pick up 55 Bowman whenever I see them anywhere for, and I don't care about the condition so much, but it's because me and my dad used to buy them in a little rinky-dink shop, and it was a record shop that had cards on a shelf. You know what I mean? We paid.
What's a record?
Eric will
Stop.
tell you. Ask Eric. But it's crazy. Like, that's the nostalgia part for me. Like, I lost my dad at an early age. If some people don't follow me and so forth, I was 15, and that's my tie to a lot of that stuff. 65 Topps Pirates, like, my dad had started to pick some up because it was 80, 81. A lot of that stuff's literally cents at the time, and we didn't grow up from any means. He was a factory worker. Why do I pick up 65 Topps Pirates? Because it's what my dad started. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and not because I have any connection to it other than my dad, but there's nostalgia with that. And I see Smokey Burgess cards and I grab them because my dad likes Smokey Burgess. You know what I mean? Like, get out of here. You know what I mean? Like, if you don't have that connection, and if you do have that connection, you're going to buy more. So I think that's probably the biggest hurdle facing the industry going forward, is maintaining a nostalgic connection, especially
maintaining the kids.
Well, getting them deeper involved.
Sure.
Going to a card show a week and a half ago and going through an old junk wax era, dime box, so to speak. A lot of cards were under $1, some quarter, 50 cents. And just going through it and going, man, loved this card. And again, it was when there was still a little bit of innocence surrounding collecting. And in modern day, we call it true collectors. And why do you need so many of the same card, hoarding? And it's like, because first off, you can collect that way. You can afford it now.
Because it's not illegal to.
Yeah. And again, there's no right or wrong way. Not everybody does. Somebody that I respect a lot in the hobby, Tanner Jones, was on with Dr. Beckett saying he doesn't have a connection to having more than one copy of each. He doesn't need more than one copy. And then there's others of us that would take as many copies of a single card as we can get. Why? Because why not?
Say a Bert Blyleven autograph card.
But you're not.
What are you saying? I may hold a good percentage of that.
Which one?
It was the what did they call it? Recollection. It was when Donruss reissued some of the 90 Leaf. There was 27 of them, and I have 9 of them. Were Bert Blyleven, when he was still a little bit of a tougher autograph. He wasn't signing a whole lot then. Now he's gone crazy and signing everything, but that's okay too. And great individual, by the way. Like, he joked around with me and my buddy Charlie for 10 minutes outside of PNC Park, like literally on the streets. We're talking to him. He's got his arm around, and it's just crazy. Like, how? What year was that?
Yeah,
I was about 2000. Let me see. It would have been.
Or do you have one near you?
What's that?
Or do you have one near you? Or is that in the backyard archives?
It's probably in the archives.
Of course.
I wish I'd have known. I would have had something. I would have had some of those handy. I'll tell you what, I got a Matt Adams run too of rated rookie. I think they were from, I want to say National Treasures, where it had a rated rookie manufactured patch. And I've got about, I think there's 50 of those, and I think I have at least 10 of them. So,
but why Matt Adams?
Well, local guy, somewhat local, I should say. Played for the Cardinals. Obviously, made it big. I actually know relatives of his, so that's something kind of cool too.
Makes sense.
So let's I want to pivot. You and I got into a conversation yesterday, day before Monday. I think it was Monday, about Migos, which are being, produced by Topps, distributed by Topps, however we want to argue it. And I know anybody out there listening is going to say, "Hey, Migo dolls are not cards," and we're listening because this is a card podcast. However, I want to bring it in with a card tie-in here. There were no Migo dolls released this week. There were 20. They've ran for 10 weeks, 2 at a time. They were $20 a piece. My first thought as they started rolling out, and my dad lives with me, he collects Migos, the originals, and had a lot to say on this topic. Why didn't they do baseball players? They did, Star Trek. They did, a couple of times I think they did Star Trek. They did Planet of the Apes. Mm-hmm. A lot of these were done originally through the Migo line.
Yep.
So you're basically recreating. I think Zira from Planet of the Apes wasn't made. My thought is,
she was. We had her as kids.
Okay, I might be mistaken. So yeah, there were some that weren't released.
Yes, there were other ones though that weren't released. Yeah. Yep.
And Chuck Taylor was there. I think this is his name. But why not do baseball players? Imagine what an Ohtani or a Judge or a Trout would have done if they had done this. And again, I don't know how the licensing worked with Topps and Migo. But here's what would have been really interesting. Regardless if you did Planet of the Apes, cool. Why not release them with a trading card? You can get your Chuck Taylor and your Zira. You can get your Spock and your so and so and Phantom of the Opera just came out, and then you get your card. And much like Topps now, those cards are print run. And my thought was this. Some people would want the dolls and have no desire to have these cards. And some people would buy those just to get that print run card because I'm a collector of trading cards, as we all are. Very similar to the starting lineup.
Sure.
Right? I mean, the Mickey Tettleton that came out, I forget what year it was. I think it was 91, where they had a current card of the current player plus a rookie card. So the Mickey Tettleton was a Baltimore Orioles figure with a Baltimore Orioles card, but it had an Oakland A's because he rookied with the A's.
Yep.
A very hard figure to come by nowadays, and hard to get the card individually, and that was, I think, the only series that they did where there was a double card, outside of maybe the dual collection where you got 2 figures at once. You got like Reggie Jackson and Canseco in a pack together. But I think you would have increased demand if you would have added trading cards, literally is what Topps does.
Mm-hmm.
So something similar to which I know we talked about previously, starting lineup.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The starting lineup is I collect the starting lineup figures. I can give a damn about the cards, or we're card collectors. So a lot of us collected both, and because they were packaged together, you got both. But again, if you're just a card collector, you might want to go back and get all of your players or teams from 88, 89, 90, so on and so forth. I don't need the dolls anymore, the little action figures. I don't need that. All of mine from a kid that I had on display as a 9-year-old are all up in my rafters now, but the cards are with my card collection. What are your thoughts on Migo and the rollout?
It's funny because if you read the description for the figures and you're when you buy it, it's gone now. They've removed all trace of it except for the quote archive, the print run. That's the only thing that exists on the Topps website now. There should be. I was going to say, Steph, if you look in if you're looking for a link, I sent one earlier in our personal chat there for the print runs, but they worded it as if they were expecting it to fail. In that basically they said, if we don't make these, we're going to refund your money. And it's to your point. I think they made that deal with them, and basically all they were was a distributor. It was very odd to me in the same regards. Like, why are we doing figures? A Topps figure. To your point too, no sports, no cards. It's just like they distributed their product, and it was very strange. You're right. It should have had some more Topps
Give us a
influence in
stick of
it.
85 bubblegum. You know you still have some around. They have cases of those. But yeah, it's like my whole thought was
There it is.
there's a television show called Succession on HBO, and as a big fan of The West Wing and Billions, a lot of people recommended that I would enjoy that show. And my biggest issue with the show is I don't know exactly who they're trying to market to. Are they a serious drama or are they a comedy? Because they're kind of floundering in this, at least through the first few episodes of season 1. Migo was very similar. It's like you're on Tops.com, and a card manufacturer, yes, a confectionery company as well. But are you trying to market these to the card consumer? Because there's probably not a ton of crossover. But if you had included a baseball card with, a trading card with them,
Sure.
And all of a sudden I can get a Green Arrow trading card, and I don't understand where this rollout was.
My only guess is that it may have been a part of the original plan, and then once they realized they couldn't do licensing for some of the DC, Marvel, Star Trek guys, or Planet of the Apes, for crying out loud, they may not have been able to fulfill it the way they wanted to, and then that's why they build in like, hey, yeah, if this don't work, you know what, we're just gonna send your money back. So, and I did purchase one of the figures. I bought 2 of them. I hope they come out. I don't know, but we did have Planet of
which
the
2
Apes.
did you pick up?
Well, I got Zira. That it was funny he mentioned. I actually have Zira's coat laying here, the original one laying here somewhere in open part of the archives. Probably not within reach though. And
So you're saying I need to go to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania?
Maybe. But yeah, it was ones we had as a kid, and I was telling mutual friends of ours, like I couldn't wait for like the other apes to come out, because there was always some of the apes, like the Gorilla Guards, that I didn't get as a kid that I wanted, and I'm thinking like, oh, this will be fantastic, and they keep releasing like sporadic weird stuff, and it's like they had no rhyme or reason to it. They had, especially with the 90 to 120 day expectation to receive it. Like they could have released like 4 or 5 a week, you know what I mean? Like I think, and like you said, with a better tie-in, like a card tie-in, I think they could have done a lot better in getting it out there.
Well, I've said personally, my opinion is Project 2020 was that the card collector, was not the target audience. We were the secondary audience, with the art collectors and the people that support the Blake Jamesons and F. Dots.
Yep.
Their fans were the primary audience, but it's a trading card, and you're making them of our favorite players and our favorite teams. So we're still going to collect them, whether we really want to or not. Whether we balk at the price is irrelevant. It's a trading card. So they've now come into our world. With Migo, it's like, put trading cards in there if you want to get us interested, because I can guarantee you a lot of individuals would have been much more interested because of the non-sports tie-in if I now have a serial numbered card similar to Topps Now and other online print to demand releases. And it's just fascinating to kind of see if you can do me a favor, if and when you get yours. I'd love to know how they're packaged.
Oh, absolutely.
If they just come in a box with some bubble wrap around it and go, here's your,
it's Topps.
It is. Who knows? So it'll be interesting to see if they get released at this point. We do have some good topics in the show, so I do want to get into that. There's a topic we can push. I'd have you on again maybe in a couple of months and talk about a post-mortem plan. Of what are we going to do with all of our collections when our time comes and we've got to pass it on to our loved ones. I think that probably a really lengthy conversation. Honestly, maybe we'll do a weekend show with that one alone. But since it's been a while since the weekend interview back in 2019, remind us what one card you would keep over any others. As Steph says, if the backyard archives was to catch fire, God forbid, which card would you run in and retrieve?
1963 Fleer Roberto Clemente.
Oh, a Pirates card.
Well, there's a very interesting story around that. I did do an extensive show on it on YouTube the one time, probably 15, 20 minutes. Not terribly long to listen to the whole story, but long story short, it was a card my dad paid $5 for. I at a show, a flea market type show where there was like 2 card dealers back in the day. You're talking 1981, and I went out to the car. I'm like googly eyed because my dad got a Clemente, right? Like I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is the greatest day of my life. My dad purchased, and it's his, it's not mine. He purchased the 1963 Clemente, and I'm thinking like, this is unbelievable. We're kings. And of course, we're poor family, working poor. My dad worked in the factory. My mom took care of us kids. I go out to the car, and my mom and 2 sisters have been sitting in this '74 Oldsmobile for about an hour and a half, waiting for us to fiddle it around in there. It's the middle of summer. They're sweating to death. They've had enough of our crap already, right? So we come out, and I'm like over the moon, and I couldn't wait to get in the car. And I says to my mom, I says, "You ain't gonna believe it. Dad just bought a card for $5." And you might as well, have said it was $1,000 at the time. You know what I mean? Like I said, that was ridiculous money for a card. And she's like, "You did what?" And like she gave him a raft of crap, like you wouldn't believe. I'm sitting in the back seat, and he's like, "You weren't supposed to say anything." and I'm like,
What
okay.
happened was
Right. So I classically, like I'm, my dad wasn't upset with me, but it was kind of that, like, like I got found out. But my mom, about 4 years later, like I said, my dad passed away. That was, a different time. There was no such thing as counseling. You fought your way through that sort of stuff, right?
Sure.
My dad was my best friend, and I didn't really mess with his stuff a whole lot because it was his, and I didn't want to touch anything. I wanted to leave it the way he left it, right? One time, about 1990 or so, I'm looking at, looking into some of his stuff, maybe 91, and I find the 63 Clemente. I knew where it was. I didn't go in and get it. Well, it was in his dresser drawer, and I went and I got it. And about the time, it was 91 for sure when I looked it up in Tough Stuff. And I showed my mom how much it was worth. And she felt a little, embarrassed a little, because we had joked about that even afterwards, like me saying that he spent a ridiculous $5 on a card. Well, ended up in 1998, I believe. I just found the old invoice the other day from 98 when I mailed it into SGC and had it graded, and it come back like a 6 or whatever. And it's like, it's not, I don't care what grade it was. I wanted it so that it wasn't damaged any more than it already was. At the time, grading was, nobody really knew what that was going to turn into, but I really just wanted it slabbed so it was not touched anymore. So
that's an awesome story. And Mom just didn't know that cards were investments. That's what it comes down to.
I don't know if I go that far, but you're right.
At that time you could have said "in your face, Mom," and which is a prelude to a couple of different topics. Why I use the words "in your face." We'll be saying that a couple more times during the show. So, Biggs, hey, we really appreciate you coming on and sticking around with us. If you do need to go, since it's past your bedtime, I'm sure. Let us know if you want to stay until the show closes. Awesome.
I'll hang out.
So this just in, we got an awesome mail day just a couple of hours ago from guest who was on with us a couple weeks ago, Tony Bianchini from cardart.com and all other kinds of stuff. He sent us some really awesome artwork from Blake Jameson, no less. I don't know if we can pick this up, but there's this Will Clark here for Andrew Renault from Bayside Breakers, who was a guest host as well that evening, and then signed by Blake Jameson there on the back. A Norman Rockwell. I apologize, I don't have what these are all from, so we'll just have to enjoy the photos. couple of A's of Blake Trinan and Matt Olson for my PC, which is awesome.
Topps
And then-
Fire and something else.
Yeah, that was Topps Fire and a different card. And then some for Steph. We've got I'll have the showstoppers for last, but we have a Jose Barrios. I apologize that
Fire again, I think.
that these aren't coming up all that great. The watercolors or the colors, the paint that he's using isn't picking up that great on the camera. But Mitch Garver
From
and
Big
then
League.
A Chuck Knobloch.
96 Topps number crunchers.
Okay, got to know everything. And Jake Odorizzi.
2010 Topps update or base? Jake
It
Odo.
is Series 2. And this one's
Series
actually serial numbered out of 2020.
Nice.
So it's the gold version. And then a couple of Luis Arises, one from
Gypsy and 2019 update.
That is correct. And so we want to thank, obviously, Blake Jameson for creating the fantastic artwork.
Most definitely.
And then, of course, Tony for sending those our way. We cannot thank you enough, for everything that you do for the hobby.
Absolutely.
And, of course, sending us that awesome mail day. And I will, of course, forward those to Andrew and Steph here in the next few days.
To that, I do have an additional mail day.
Yeah.
To go alongside my Babe Ruth and my Barry Bonds and eventually my, presumably, Topps either Series 1 or Series 2 this year will have the 87 relics like they've had 86, 85, 84. I figured 87's the perfect one to get a Mark McGwire for, naturally. But this came in. It's a 2005 Donruss Diamond King, number 91 of 100 on the back. Jersey Bat relic for a little bit over the cost of a Panini blaster nowadays. I think it was like $25 shipped, something like that. Can't beat it. Has the Yankee logo, unfortunately, but
beautiful card.
Nice pickup for a Fargo guy.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And
Dakota.
Andrew Renault with Bayside had came across our DMs last week as the show was on. I don't know if you have a picture of it handy, but he was opening up some Panini Mosaic baseball while listening to the show, and he pulled a 1/1 Mike Trout, and he's like, check this out. So that'll probably be in the package coming my way because Andrew loves me so much. But if we can get that picture up. If not,
I got it. Sir, please.
And while he's getting that up,
do something computer based.
While he's getting that up, hey, please feel free to share your recent mail days with us. Tag About the Cards on Twitter. Pictures, videos, 60 seconds. Keep them G-rated. Use hashtag About the Cards Mail Day, and we'll do our best to feature your cards on an upcoming episode. And that Mike Trout was the V-Tool insert out of Mosaic 1/1. Pretty card. Yeah, really nice. And, of course, with the red border and everything, it's, it's colored to his jersey. So that's awesome. Well done, Andrew. Andrew's actually going to be on the show next week, so that'll be fun to have him back on. The week that was last week's releases, Topps Living Week 189 was Huascar Yanoa from the Braves. I don't have sold numbers. I do apologize. And then 460 Lance McCullers Jr. of the Astros. So 2 cards from the World Series teams. Also releasing was on Wednesday, the 20th. In fact, all of these are going to be from last Wednesday, the 20th. Bowman 2021 Bowman Transcendent, 2021 Panini Mosaic, as we mentioned, 2021 Panini National Treasures Collegiate Football, 2021 Topps 5-Star, 2021 Topps Mickey Mantle Collection, the online release, 2021 Upper Deck Timmy's, and then 2021 Star Wars Chrome Legacy all came out last week. Unless I missed something. I think they all did. If not, hey, that's just the way the hobby goes. Hot off the presses, new releases for this week. Topps Living 190 came out today. 461 Enrique Hernandez of the Red Sox. And Jared Kelly, 462, did Albert Pujols, first baseman for the Dodgers. I think he was card number 22, if I remember, from Cardboard Stats. Both Enrique Hernandez and Albert Pujols had been previously represented in this set. This is the second card for both of them. And, of course, Albert Pujols, congratulations on a fabulous career. As far as the story goes, he'll be retiring at the end of this year. So another active player, legend, possibly a top 5 to 10 player of all time, at least offensive player. When you start to boil down the stats and dissect him, I mean, he's in short company with all of the greats.
Sure.
Only the third or fourth guy to do this, that, and the other.
If it wasn't for Ichiro playing nearly alongside him, I don't know that you could have named a better player. I mean, 300, 130 for 10 years straight. I mean, aside from Ichiro's 10 years of 200 hits, both completely different playing styles, both seemingly great humanitarian and great individual people. Pujols naturally being a little bit better in the playoffs than the Mariners and some of the teams that Ichiro played for, but absolutely a pleasure to watch him play from beginning to end.
One of those guys that, like so many others, if you weren't a Cardinals fan or an Angels fan, you hated to watch him, and you loved to watch him at the same time because you knew he was going to butcher your team, but you also knew you were watching greatness.
Mm-hmm.
And that really is the epitome of what a great player is God, not this guy. And at the same time, you're getting your popcorn like, hey, I know what I'm watching here. We knew what we saw with Michael Jordan. We knew LeBron James. We see it with Tom Brady. We just, what you're watching is something unlike almost any other human being in those sports can do.
Plus, he has a funny name to say.
There's that too. Topps Living Star Wars, available through next Tuesday. Card 251, Rune Hako from Star Wars The Phantom Menace. I don't know if I pronounced that correct. And then 252 Tech from Star Wars The Bad Batch. So go grab those if you're collecting that set.
At least a character I recognize. One of the Trade Federation guys.
Yeah, no, it's a nice looking card. If you're collecting that set and you like the animated stuff, this is a good week for you. Both cards looked really well. I haven't started watching The Bad Batch yet, but it's on the watch list, so we'll hopefully get around to it eventually. Top Sports Illustrated, also available through next Tuesday. Should only be 2 more releases after this week. This is week 33 of 35. Card 65, Bryce Harper of the Nationals from 2013. And card 66, Ken Griffey Jr. of the Reds from 2004. So those are a couple of nice cards. The Sports Illustrated cards, much like Topps now, really good stock if you've had an opportunity to buy them and see them in person.
Mm-hmm.
And then Topps Throwback Thursday is available through tomorrow morning. It's set number 42, 1982 Baseball in Action. This is the second of 4 weeks. Card 124, Lewis Robert. 125 is Fernando Tatis Jr., which has the short print variation. And then card 126, Brooks Robinson, which comes in black and white and is a phenomenal image of him diving for a ball, stretching for a ball.
So I was going to ask, Biggs, what design would you want to see Topps use for the next run of Throwback Thursday?
Oh, that's a good question. I'll tell you. This is an answer that, because I was just thinking last night about that series. One that I really liked so far was the 79-80 hockey that they used with the Trout and so forth. And I don't know that was, I'm not 100% certain that was a Throwback Thursday set, but holy smokes, did that look awesome, like with the Trout and so forth. That was amazing how it turned out for baseball. But I like the series, and I think they kind of, I don't know how it's working out for them as far as doing the 3 cards in a week, but I kind of liked it better when you had, you could get the set
of
6
at
a time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Like the first year they brought those out was 2016, and I did
16 or 17, yeah.
I think it was 16 because it was the year the Cubs won the series, and I bought quite a few of those that year, and they did a nice job. And of course, 55 Bowman I think was the first week, And that's one of my, like I said, with my dad and so forth, the junk stuff we picked up back in the day. And I don't have a whole lot of super ends, high end stuff in any of that, but it's nice. Well, not a lot, not any, but I like the Bowman of that year too. There you go. That's the one I'm thinking in my head that just turned out magnificent. But
Yeah.
it's hard. They've gone through a lot of their designs already, and to a degree, it might be a good thing that they're near their end of their baseball card run. But sitting here, I'll tell you one that I have sitting here, and I'll show you. This was a good design they could
Okay.
harken back to. It was based on the
81
81.
squirt.
Yep. And on the back, it's exactly the 81 back. So, but the 81 squirt is a nice little design that they could get into, not necessarily putting squirt obviously on it,
Sure.
but they could go into some of their food issues and stuff, because they did do a fair share of food issues.
You can bring some of the stuff back without bastardizing it.
Yeah.
If you're only doing 16 of them or 12 of them, and
yep,
six of them. I mean, when they did the A team a couple of years ago,
right,
with only players that had last names of A's, it was awesome. Unfortunately, the Oakland A's didn't have any players at that time. But yeah, it was an awesome design, and so you could always bring that back as long as you're not doing it every year. That's what frustrates fans. You don't need to do it every year.
Or every other year. And a lot of the archives have been just such drudged on repeat stuff, and 72s now I was a couple years back, I'm thinking I'm excited for 72 to come. I couldn't get any of those as a kid. It was kind of too early for me. And it was me and my buddy, I remember years and years ago, we're thinking, holy smokes, when they get to 72 for Heritage, or what they called archives originally, this is going to be great. Modern players with 72 design. By the time it come out, it was kind of because they've already done it so many times. As inserts, as archives, as this, as that. And as it finally come out as Heritage, it was it wasn't exciting as I thought it would be,
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. Couple major releases coming out this week also, guys, is 2021 Panini Absolute Football. Dropped today, $5.50 a box. 3 packs, and you'll get 5 cards in each pack. There's a 200 base card set, 100 vets, 100 rookies. In a box, you'll get 1 rookie premier auto, 2 mems, 2 other autos, an insert, and 2 parallels, and then 1 kaboom and explosive will drop in each case. So, knock yourself out if that's your kind of thing. Actually, I have Mojo Break on the YouTube behind me here. They're actually opening this right now. 2021 Panini Recon Basketball came out today, $400 a box. You're going to get 10 packs in a box. Each pack will have 6 cards. It is the debut of this particular product. Yeah, really sharp looking. They've got a lot of purple in the card. The background is purple. And then thick stock, similar to Obsidian, Mosaic, things along those lines, if you haven't seen it.
I'd like to point out that on the show notes, at least, you spelled it basketball. Did
I spell it basketball? I did. Close enough. There was something else I did too. I think the word insert on one of them. I had inset with no R. So if you open up some Recon, you'll get 2 autos in a box. You'll get 10 base parallels, and then you'll get 10 inserts or insert parallels. And again, every card appears as Mojo's opening it to have a purple background, unless it's a parallel. Pretty sharp looking, not bad.
Cool. I kind of dig these.
Yeah, no, they're nice. I mean, as you're watching them on the video, one of them has a triangle behind the player with clouds behind it. I think it's that one right there in the middle step.
Sky's the limit. Yep.
Yeah, they're sharp looking cards. I think they've got it on display in the back, so I'm assuming that's got to be a short print or chase. So, if you do open any Recon, if you want to tag the show, that'd be kind of cool to see some of what you hit out there. And then, of course,
Fleer Provisions.
Very similar, yeah, I can see that, yeah. And then coming out Friday is 2021 Topps Update. If you open up a jumbo box, it's going to cost you about $217. Hobby costs you about $105. The hobby packs will be 24 packs, 14 cards in each pack. jumbo 10 packs with 46 cards in each. A hobby is going to contain one auto or mem in a box. And then they're going to have an insert set that is going to be called Topps Cards That Never Were. Again, let's go ahead and create new
2026 Topps, 2027.
Yeah, like 1968 Reggie Jackson was the one that was on the original sell sheet.
Yep.
Obviously, he rookied in 69. He did play briefly in 68. So, reimaginations. I'm more for this kind of stuff than just the same crap over and over again. I love the 1987 Topps McGuire. That's no secret, but I don't need to see it in every damn insert set from here.
Okay, but how about an 86 McGuire?
See, and that's the thing. I was really looking forward to this year's flagship release because they were doing the 86 inserts. And I was really excited to get a McGuire on the 86 design because he did play in 86. He made his debut in August. So I'm okay with that. I just don't need you to continuously reprint the 87 with Burger's Best on the back or recollect Topps. And it's like, listen, guys, if I want the 87, I'll just go buy the 87. You want to do it once? Fine. You want to do it 17 times? Pass. So there's also, I think, another insert called Topps Black Gold. I don't recall that in Series 1 and Series 2. No. It's a tribute to the first modern-day insert set back from the year 1993. So we'll take a look and see.
I'm excited to see this, and I'm excited to see the Kirilov in hand, as he has one on the set.
Nice. You have to share that if you grab a copy of it. So also releasing this week, today, in fact, was Topps Heritage Minor League Baseball and Panini Mosaic Choice Baseball, with the original Mosaic dropping last week. So all scheduled release dates are subject to change, but we're current as of this afternoon when I pulled everything. MSRP pricing and products details were all gathered from Blowout Cards and are subject to change. You can check out Ryan Cracknell's articles on Beckett.com/news for more details on these releases. What's brewing next week? 2021 Bowman Inception comes out on Wednesday the 3rd. 2020/21 Upper Deck AHL Hockey comes out on the 3rd. And then on Friday the 5th.
Bye, Jeff. Bye. Sorry.
2021 guy. Panini Chronicles Baseball. Oh, my God. We're going to dissect that checklist huge next week.
Probably.
Probably with just an blurb also releasing next week. Or this week, Chronicles. 2021 Panini Prism Racing comes out on Friday. 2021 Topps Triple Threads is slated for Friday. And then 2021 Topps Transcendent WWE. Infield Chatter, Hobby Talk. Figure we're gonna go with something. We do have a few different announcements coming up from different companies and whatnot. But Sport Lots announced on Twitter that they're going to start offering Magic the Gathering, which is really interesting. They even reached out to have some questions from people that they had some questions and wanted some Magic the Gathering experts perhaps to help. What guys, what does this mean for Sport Lots, and what does this mean for Magic the Gathering collectors?
So there are a couple of online vendors that do Magic really well, but they're a little bit more commercialized or a little bit more up to date, either based on consignment or you send it to a shop and the shop buys it directly from you and then they sell it as they choose to. But I think having the players being given the ability, players, not collectors in this case, of the game, being able to list whatever cards they have, similar to someone would 1991 Fleer, should give them an easy extra option to look at least. They're not cheap. Each set's come out nearly as often as Topps does, and you have to have 4 of each card, however many of each card, that to play certain deck configurations. That it'll be nice, for somebody in the middle of Iowa or Pennsylvania, rural Pennsylvania, that only has one traffic light to purchase their.
Talking to me?
No.
If the shoe fits, I mean, sure.
Some of us have more than one Pokemon Go stop besides their mailbox.
No, I thought it was interesting.
It's true.
Yeah, last year, I think it was last year, maybe year before, Panini had dropped the Onward, the Disney movie Onward stickers, at the Dollar Tree, and my son Bentley got into them, and 90% of the set with a bunch of duplicates. It's like there's really no way for me to get rid of the duplicates, and the only person on eBay at that time that had singles for sale was from England, and it was going to be incredible. I mean, $35 to try to complete this kid's set, and I wasn't going to get the whole set, so I ended up not buying him at all. If he had all the ones we needed, I would have just sucked it up and done it, even though now we're talking about a $100 Panini sticker book
set.
But hey, if it gets him excited about it, and it was one of those things, we were rewarding him for good behavior. Hey, you do this, you're good at Nana's house today. After school, you can pick 2 packs out and add them to your sticker book. I'm hoping this is step one in that we're going to start seeing Pokemon cards, vintage Star Wars cards, vintage non-sports. Maybe we can see some more of the some of the obscure stuff from the 60s and 70s, Mars Attacks, Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island. Those are expensive. I've tried to buy some of those for my dad, and they're like $15-$20 each for the ones you can find. They just didn't have very much traction back in the day. So would it be really nice to be able to start seeing some of these more non-sports stuff added to play? And I know it's called Sport Lots,
right?
But that's okay. Doesn't matter. It's trading cards. It still fits in. It's a one-off.
I wonder, if there's any other marketplaces where you could see non-sport and Magic and cards of that nature.
Do you want to do a shameless plug there?
No, I'm good.
I'm assuming. I'm
assuming.
Huh.
Is it a 4-letter word? Like
it might be.
Like eBay?
No.
Yeah,
eBay definitely
eBay
go on
does.
eBay.
Yeah,
They might.
They do.
eBay's
They
4-letter
may.
word marketplace. Okay, yeah, we'll go with that.
Yep.
So here's one of 3 in your faces. In your face fanatics via the NHLPA. This came down the pipeline just a day or so ago. Upper Deck and the NHLPA have agreed on a long-term extension for the rights to the NHL. And there is an article from the NHLPA. Long-term was not defined with a through date, but Ryan Cracknell speculated it was most likely a 4 to 5 year pact, probably running into 26, 27-ish. This is a strong anti-Fanatics development. What are your guys' thoughts on Fanatics trying to buy this NHL license by just, buying Upper Deck?
I absolutely love that this contract got renewed. I can't say enough about some of the products that Upper Deck releases. I know that for all we know that Upper Deck seemingly isn't up for sale. As much as having Upper Deck in some of these other sports would be great, but they'd announced an extension previously, and it was about 5 to 7 years that the previous extension till now had came up. But with this coming up, I absolutely love it. I'm looking forward to next year's set, even though apparently some or all of the Tim Hortons cards this year have last year's stats on them. The previous year stats on them, not last year's stats. Not an error. All of them have that. Thanks, guys. But like I said, I absolutely love to see this. I'm looking forward to a few of their releases as well. And going forward, the continuity of the Young'uns line. I mean, it started in 91?
Yeah.
Give or take?
Yeah.
Not that Mind Wild should have too many rookies and that we're doing pretty well, but between that and as long as they stop canceling sets,
that's more of a supply
sets, and I get
supply
why
chain
for
issue.
sure.
Yeah. I mean,
and I get why for sure, but I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out.
Think of this. They are now going to be, they technically are still already now, but they're the longest contiguously made set of any sport not named Topps. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I mean, put that into perspective. That they've been making hockey cards since 1991. That's a long time, and that's a big legacy to hold up. Now, I mean, we look back, at our age, and look back. Obviously, I'm a little bit older than both of you
So
gentlemen,
that's nearly as old as I am.
but we look back. No, but you look back though, and you think like, man, that's a long time. Like,
It,
yeah,
it is in an industry that we've seen so much cannibalization
sure.
and
that time
bastardation, and yeah, it's not nothing is meant to last forever, certainly, but
Take that,
in this
Tops.
in this industry, we see it a lot more like gotta look at the back of the card sometimes because you're not sure who's producing it these days, and so you can check out the Puck Junk podcast episode 102 for Sal, Barry, and Tim Parrish's thoughts on this. I don't know if it was a special episode or just a normal episode, but I know they're going to have a lot of good information. It's on my listening to-do list. I want to see what their thoughts are, since they are hockey guys, and probably going to cover it a lot more in depth is all.
Well, one thing that I saw that I would absolutely love to see, presuming the extension or the extension of this extension, wordy, gets extended. Sharing my screen here. The extension is through 2029. It's not. But Upper Deck Hockey and Toss really should come together and make a deal for the 50th anniversary of Wayne Gretzky's rookie card. Would love to see parallels of the Gretzky rookie card. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I would absolutely love to see a OPG by Upper Deck, in that they have the OPG name in their wheelhouse, and Gretzky.
Well, what about like a Mickey Mantle collection that Topps just released, but a Wayne Gretzky one with different imaginations of the rookie card? You can put that base image on different designs, popular designs throughout, the 50s, 60s, 80s, 90s.
If Upper Deck existed in 79, this is what
what would it look like? Yeah, I mean, you can have a lot of fun with it, just like this Mickey Mantle collection theoretically is. Yeah, so yeah, check out the Puck Junk podcast if you want some more information. From in-your-face fanatics to in-your-face Tops via Panini America. Panini announced that they have secured the exclusive license with the WWE starting in Q1 of 2022, according to Panini's press release. What does this mean for Panini's long-term outlook in the hobby? One that a lot of collectors were speculating on recently, that Fanatics basically kicked Panini out of the hobby.
I mean, it definitely gives them an avenue to print, and I know those guys over there that they love reveling in things like this, both on the wrestling front, the racing front. They do excellent work. So I'm but both cautiously optimistic, because it seems to be about the only license that Panini will have at the moment. But I know that their work and what they've done, they should succeed, as long as there's WWE collectors still. Are there WWE collectors?
I know a lot of people are excited for what Panini Prism Wrestling might look like, and what a downtown type card, Kaboom type cards might look like. What are your thoughts, Biggs?
Well, you realize Panini is actually owned by an international company.
It is.
WWE is, next to soccer, one of the largest sports viewed in the world. And we're not just talking here. They've got deals with China. They've got deals with India. They've got deals with UK and Europe. And they have got their fingers in every television market you can imagine. That some of their buy rates for like WrestleMania are ridiculous. So there's hundreds of millions of fans, and if that's marketed properly, you could see international sets. This could be a big money maker for them. I think it's nothing to sneeze at. I really don't. I think they were very, very smart in negotiating that away. And as I understand, the licensing rights were very inexpensive. We'll just say in the less than double-digit millions.
Really?
Yes, I
And Topps didn't
understand.
want to try to see. Topps got a lot of debt coming up. They might not have been in a.
And they do have a lot on the board, and they've got some issues. There's no doubt about that. And back to the previous thing about the O-Pee-Chee Gretzky, what do you see about Topps licensing out some of their designs even? I mean, they do have a lot of heritage, no pun intended. But I think that you could see that, and I think Topps, you could see what's the NFT market look like for their designs. You know what I mean? Not that I'm a big fan of NFTs, but I think they might be thinking in a different direction is why they're letting this stuff go.
It's a good possibility.
I do, because you figure there's no cost, to a lot of those things that they already own the rights to. And if they're trimming debt, by not signing WWE again, it was, as I understand, what I had read was it could be 5 to 7 million is what the licensing.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Right. And to me, like, that's pittance, compared to, but whatever, we don't know.
So what you're saying is be ready to wait forever for redemptions for Ric Flair.
Well, Ric Flair's on the outs now.
Yeah, Ric Flair's probably not signing anything soon.
We don't talk about him now.
Flair's not the most popular the hombre around those parts, but
how did it take? Seriously, how did it take 40 years for people to figure that out? But I'm just saying.
When I saw that, it's like, oh, so Flair's a scumbag. Okay,
well.
Neat. Like, of course he is.
Sure, the plane ride, and that's the plane ride from hell. Like, that's been well known for, at least 15 years, 20 years. And people are just now shocked. It's like, I've been, kind of done with Ric Flair for a while. So
yeah, it looks like
not surprising.
It looks like Topps and Panini are just going to cannibalize themselves, and Fanatics is just going to sit back and wait for the carnage to jump in and eat whatever's left over. I honestly think this is a death nail of sorts for Topps, and ultimately their best bet is going to be to go knock on the door of Fanatics and say, hey, so what kind of offer do you guys have on the table right now? Because that debt is going to be a serious issue. And they're, if you're bleeding licenses, good for them for getting the Japanese baseball license, but they've got the Star Wars license, but is that next? And if they lose the Star Wars license, what do you guys have left? You have nothing in the tank outside of your IP. And that's strong and it's worth something, but it's not worth nearly as much if that's all you have left. So,
sure.
So much for the Topps WWE living set, right, guys? I mean, being a forever set, it looks like it's a till February 22 set.
Well, and the big complaint was they weren't releasing any legends. And now this week, all of a sudden, there's 2 legends released. Like, it's like,
imagine that.
Interesting. Yeah, interesting. They're going to have to start putting out 5 or 10 cards a week if they want to get their money back out of that.
No, certainly. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that over the next, presumably, we don't know what Q1 means. The press release said Q1. We don't know if that's January, February, or March. So to speculate on how much more, we're assuming, in the 10 to 16 week window, the Topps can still produce WWE cards. But from in-your-face Topps to in-your-face eBay via Golden Auctions, Golden is launching a new online marketplace slated to open next Tuesday, November 2nd. We don't really have any information unless something's come up since I wrote these show notes to report on tonight's show. We just kind of wanted to announce that that's what we saw. We should know quite a bit more next week since it's opening on Tuesday. What are your guys' just, Cliff Notes thoughts?
I mean, at least from the image that they put out, it seems like they're advertising cards, seemingly jerseys, comics, video games.
Oh, it's going to be high end.
Oh, sure. I mean, this is like Detective Comics, Super Mario Brothers, the original Sonic, the Brady contenders.
You're not going to go look
stuff.
for you're not looking for your Donruss Optic Diamond King parallels on the Golden Marketplace.
No, probably not.
Yeah,
It'll be interesting to see where it goes, though.
Sure.
Will it be something users can, a quote eBay alternative where users can actually post their own stuff? Or are you going to have to go through Golden, or
More
is it
like
going to
an
be like,
auction house.
well,
Sure.
yeah, is it going to be Pristine? You know what I mean? Because Pristine already has their own app and
Right.
their website and all that stuff. Is it going to be something more along that lines, or is it going to be more like what we're accustomed to with Golden, anyways? I think it's interesting to see, and they've certainly got a lot of money and people behind them. If they wanted to bring out a little more eBay-esque type marketplace, I think they could.
So let me ask the obvious question: when are you sending them your perfect dark?
Well, I got to get it graded first.
Of course.
All right, so we have an update on Panini v. Brashear via Paul Lesko. Just a quick refresher: Brashear was suing Panini basically over breach of contract when his and others' redemptions weren't being fulfilled in a timely manner, citing loss of potential profits versus the cards, being live at the time that they were opening the product. If I've got to wait a year, the valuation could go down. You're costing me money. My thought, as with my background, was you put anybody with a financial background on the stand at that time saying, so in other words, if you sold a Trevor Lawrence today for $1,000 because it was live, your argument is by waiting a year to get this redemption filled, maybe it's a $500 card, so you've lost $500. What if you didn't sell it day one for $1,000 and it appreciates to $5,000 in that year? They've saved you from yourself. Are you prepared to write a check, a commission check to Panini, 30% of those additional profits? Probably not. Mic drop and my excuse, judge. Case dismissed. So they
question on that: why are you selling something that you don't have in hand yet? Aren't you supposed to not count your chickens before the eggs hatch?
Well, yeah, and there's that too. And this is a really convoluted discussion. And
obviously,
if you've followed it, the initial case was actually dismissed without prejudice, which basically means there wasn't enough information available for the judge to make a decision. So they said, at this point, Panini wins, but Brashear and everybody else involved in the lawsuit can refile with additional information and bring it back to court. If it was with prejudice, that's it. That's the ball game. End of discussion. Panini wins in this case. So they did refile, and Panini alleges. Okay, I don't want to be a
seriously.
I don't want to be a Panini apologist. I really don't.
It's arguing redemptions are not contracts. That seems like a big deal. So I'll run through it here real quick.
Yeah, please.
Defendant Panini America Inc.'s traditional motion for partial summary judgment on lack of privity and consideration. Panini America Inc. Panini files this traditional motion for partial summary judgment motion concerning plaintiffs' claims for breach of contract and fraudulent inducement. The motion should be granted because there is no privity of contracts between Panini, an upstream manufacturer, and plaintiffs Kevin Brashear, and Christopher Kitchen, and because contracts alleged by plaintiffs are not supported by any consideration. Accordingly, plaintiffs' claims for breach of contract and fraudulent inducement fail as a matter of law. This motion is for partial summary judgment only and does not address plaintiffs' remaining claims. So let's go. Follows that up and adds, for the lack of privity argument, Panini argues that because the redemptions were bought from companies other than Panini, there's no contract between the redemption holder, in this case Brashear, and Christopher Kitchen, There's no contract between the redemption holder and Panini, so no contract. That seems bad. Under Texas law, there's no privity of contract between upstream manufacturers like Panini and downstream purchasers like plaintiffs. The plaintiffs admittedly bought their unique redemption cards from the intermediate retailers or distributors. Plaintiffs admit that they bought the Panini products at issue from third-party retailers. Thus, there's no privity of contract, i.e. no contractual relationship between the plaintiffs and Panini. Second argument is that because collectors did not pay additional money to Panini for the redemption at the time they were submitted, that there are no contracts. In other words, all redemptions are not contracts, so y'all can fuck off. Quoting Paul Lesko here.
Plaintiffs a lot of language in this thread.
Sure. Plaintiffs further admit that they did not pay any money or anything else of value to Panini in exchange for the redemption cards at issue. I wonder if shipping charges would count towards that. Thus, there can be no enforceable contracts between plaintiffs and Panini as alleged by plaintiffs because there is no consideration unless the alleged contracts are not enforceable as a matter of law. Skipping ahead, the redemptions from third parties are BS, and that without additional payment, they're BS. I mean, I guess for years, you fulfilled redemptions out of the kindness of your heart. Let's take a time out. This can't be Panini's position. That'd just be stupid. Reads more. Oh, no, wait, that's totally Panini's position. So essentially, what Paul is summarizing is that if I, and I think I commented this and got a like from Paul for the comparison, if I go to a dealership and buy a 2017 Jeep Wrangler, say, for example, I don't have a contract with Jeep. I have a contract with that dealership.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the dealership that should honor my redemptions?
Gets a little convoluted
because that's
here.
what Panini is claiming. I need to go to Walmart to get my redemption fulfilled.
I think the argument Panini should have used, and again, I'm not a lawyer, this is just my opinion, would have been, we create a checklist. Not all of the autographs can be produced at the time of release. And as such, we include redemptions. The idea being that allows us additional time to get these autographs signed. And after a reasonable time has passed, if we cannot do that, we will substitute those with a fair market worth substitution at our discretion. Of course, secondary valuation is completely subjective, but as long as they argued from that perspective that we're going to do our best to get Bob Smith and his signature on these cards, if we can't, then we'll give you Dave Jones's autograph instead. What we feel is a similar valuation. I think that's the argument that they should have used. That sure. we weren't trying to do anything deceitful, ill will towards Brashear and other collectors. It's just we couldn't get Trevor Lawrence to sign these cards, so we're going to give you Justin Fields cards instead.
Could you imagine arguing that in front of a judge? Because I imagined first, the judge being like, why he threw it out the first time, without prejudice. I can imagine him sitting there thinking, what the hell are they even talking about here? You know what I mean? As far as redemptions and autographs, and I don't even want to hear this. So I can't imagine going into the actual, what. And I think you're right, Ben. I'm not saying you're wrong. I think you're 100% right is what they should have argued, but I think they probably took the legal angle and been like, yeah, let's argue contracts instead of actual what really happened.
There's a great line in The Office, real quick, Steph,
about the
office. where Charles Minor looks at Jim and he goes, "Did you really want to have said that?" It's like I could just see the judge saying that when Panini's like, "Listen, these aren't contracts," And maybe Panini has a leg to stand on, guys. Maybe they do. Maybe it's the proper legal defense, but you know what? The optics look super bad.
Good. So
we won't have to worry about it soon. So,
I mean, so put another way, I guess what you're saying is that I can go to Taco Bell and it's not Taco Bell's fault for the problems that may arise. It's that individual restaurant's fault. Restaurant store location.
Yeah.
No, and see, this is where you get convoluted. And that analogy is that a lot of those places, a lot of McDonald's,
Except I exchanged money and
100% of Subways are all non-corporate stores. They're all privately owned, and it's like, you've placed these products in there, and they've got a timestamp as to when you can redeem them. Again, as long as you're offering a substitute, and even if it's Panini points, I mean, at least it's something. We don't have to like it.
Give me a Panini shirt. I mean,
I
simple.
I think the easiest solution for this would be for full transparency for these companies to release checklists that say, guys, this Panini football product Absolute's coming out today. Sorry, Trevor Lawrence did not sign in time. He's a redemption. Buyer beware. If you're going in to get in a break tonight with Mojo Break or your favorite, Midwest or whomever, and you pull a Trevor Lawrence, you get to know beforehand that it's going to be a redemption. And there's a chance. There's always a chance. You got to be smart. There's got to be some onus on the collector here too. That secondary valuation, the manufacturer has nothing to do with that. They don't, they obviously observe it. They're aware of it. They raise prices accordingly because they know what some of this stuff is selling for, but they don't have any direct, control over the secondary, what somebody's willing to pay for this. And that's where there's no contract. If I pull a card right now, I pull this card sitting in front of me and out of a pack of Panini, and Biggs, you're willing to pay me for it. That's between you and I through the medium we choose, whether it's eBay, Twitter, or otherwise. That Panini has nothing to do with that. But if I pull this out and it's a redemption, Panini has to honor that. They've got to give me something. They should. But then the question is, when these guys are coming in there arguing secondary valuation, it's like, sorry, guys, you guys are arguing the wrong thing.
Right.
Give me the card that it states that you said you were going to be able to get signed. Their first argument was, well, it's costing me money because I had to wait 6 months, and after that, the card is now devalued. I've lost profits. It's like, guys, wrong argument. You want to win money against Panini? Don't argue secondary valuation. You put one of me on that stand, and I will destroy that argument in 5 minutes. My coffee that I just poured isn't even cool enough to sip yet, and I've already dismissed myself from the court, and I've kicked your ass. I think this whole thing is frivolous, which Paul hates when I say that. He always tells me I misuse that word. It's just at the end of the day, it's a watered down pissing match that I think both parties deserve to lose. And it's bad optics. Steph, do you have can you click that link real quick and give people where they can find an article? Our friend, I think he was the Wax Heaven in a previous life, Mario, had wrote an article offering his opinion on what this might mean for collectors, especially in the face of Panini potentially exiting the hobby. I wrote that, the article, that's what it says.
Sounds.
If they leave in 2023, obviously they got the WWE license, but essentially...
How are you going to think that's Mario?
It is Mario.
You said you think it's Mario.
No, I know it's Mario. No, I was saying Wax Heaven. Anyway, it's Mario. I know. It's in the damn notes. What's the link to his website? It's a fairly long article.
Yeah, no, I can paste it in both chat and down below, as well as in the podcast description. But essentially, completist.wordpress.com. It's an article from 1025. Leads off, Panini doesn't want to fill your redemptions and why you should be very concerned.
Yeah, good article. It's not very lengthy. It's just too lengthy to read on the show. Read it at your leisure. It's a good read, whether you agree with it or not. It's written with some very poignant discussion points. And, definitely if you are on Twitter, follow Paul_Lesko. Find the thread. There is some adult language, but it is hilarious to get Paul's insight. So who knows? Example number 17,394, why grading is a sham, scam, or otherwise, via Blowout Buzz. CSG sent this submission back to a collector stating that the card was IT, or ineligible type, In other words, basically, they said this wasn't from a real set. It's a StarCast 2 card of Scarlet Bordeaux. I don't know what year, Steph. I don't know if you can tell what year.
No idea. I've never heard of StarCast.
I hadn't either. It literally took me less than 60 seconds to find the trading card database link to the set checklist.
Yep.
And so it obviously is a real set produced by, I mean, it's a real set in the same way that TCMA and Broder and a lot of these other are real sets. It's not an ACO in the basic form. According to Blowout Buzz, they did grade All In cards, which is an AEW wrestling set. I could not find a link to an actual checklist on any major reputable website. The link that I had in our show notes, Steph, is for like a collectors.com website. I think where you can,
at least the release notes is this is a box set from the StarCast 2 convention held in Las Vegas in March of 2019.
So essentially they're picking and choosing what they
consider a card or what they consider a reputable set.
If you're going to grade the all-in ones, you got to grade these too, or don't grade them at all and say, hey, we're only releasing from major manufacturers with actual licenses, and we're not grading from anything below Leaf on the pecking order, or Onyx, which would be right below them, or TriStar, or whatever. You don't want to call this a card, but they've graded other things of similar ilk. Once again, though, the grading company is showing that they have zero idea what they're doing. Just research the damn set before you send it back as what they would have assumed was an ACO or however they classified it. It's just between this and facsimile autos being graded and all of the other crap, you literally know that these people have collectively don't know what they're doing. It's all an arbitrary process. So
sure.
Submit your cards as you wish. So a conversation that Biggs and I got into a couple of days ago, we saw a picture from Bo at 1 Million Cubs. Would you trust this type of scanner? Bo showed a new printer he bought. Apparently similar ones that are used by Burbank Cards. I don't know if ComC uses something like this. Watching him scan the cards, though, made me cringe. And I hate that word. I hate when people say cringe. But I was like watching like, oh, my God, you're putting cards through this. A lot of people are like, oh, it's great to scan low-end cards. And my thought is a card is a card is a card. Low-end is subjective. And if it's so trusted, why would that even be a topic of consideration? Why wouldn't you put $1,000 card in there?
Sure.
Yep.
So here's the 22-second long video for those that are watching the video. Anyway, so it looks like he's got some NBA hoops cards that are in like a little feeder from the drop down. For what it's worth, it's like a $500 printer or a scanner, as it were, and it's just shooting cards one at a time.
And look, they're flying off his desk.
Scanner.
Yep.
They're flying off his desk. It's not protected at all. As soon as I said something, Bo blocked me. He's been on the show multiple times before. He blocked me after I called out concerns about a seller using a scanner like this. If it's a great scanner and people are expressing concern about its use, then what Bo should have done was used our conversation, Biggs, to educate and inform why he chose to use this instead of running and blocking me, because now it makes him seem shady.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know he had blocked you. I had spoke to him the next day very briefly. He runs his YouTube live thing like right off the bat in the morning. And I had spoke to him on there just briefly because I wanted to see it, because he was touting that he's going to show things live and like talk really a little more in depth about it. And when the thing started, when the live broadcast started, the scanner's in another room, So I tried to talk a little more about it there, and he kind of defended his, lower end. It's this sort of thing, it's that. But to your point, well, every card should be treated the same. Like, I don't know that who's to say what's going to happen going through there. It still leaves me very very uneasy about the position of the whole thing. Is it? I don't like it. Like you said about cringe. I'm not a big cringe guy myself, but boy, it makes you.
It does.
Yeah, I mean,
It
like
does.
you said, they're spitting out all over the desk. You know what I mean?
They
Like,
are dinging. They're dinging up against each other's, potential surface scratches, and then he's like, "Well, I wouldn't put a Chrome card there." It's like, yeah, you wouldn't put a $5 card through there either because you're concerned about it ruining the $5 card.
And here's the other thing: people were asking him about, can't you put like a penny sleeve through there or a top loader? Apparently, it'll scan thicker things. Which I'm like, okay, like all right. So let's see what the answer to this is. And he said he would not put a penny sleeve in, basically for fear that it would jam, but he might try a top loader. So story continues. So we'll see. He thinks a top loader would go through fine, and I don't know, and I'm not really sure. Some people have sent out pictures of what the inside looks like. If it's flatter, on the inside and not bowing it in any way, maybe. I mean, I don't know. It just, I think there's still more research that needs done before anybody goes trusting several thousand cards to it, as some people are.
The biggest thing is when you're blocking somebody that's calling you out on your listing practices, it looks bad on you.
Yeah,
And
I know. I agree with you.
Bo wants to come on the show. He's welcome to come on here and defend himself. But when you block me, when you and I were doing was having a fluid conversation about our concerns.
Yeah, I think people are a little too quick to that block button anymore because that's ridiculous. I don't agree with that at all.
Is it that, or is it just someone tiring of? And I'm not saying that you have antics, but just someone tired of your antics, to their personal opinion.
No, that's fine. He's welcome.
Oh, that's fine too.
He's
Talk
welcome
about
to
it
block
like
me. But
talk
yeah,
about it like a man. I mean, don't just block somebody so quick.
And we weren't talking about Bo using it as much as it's just the optics of anybody using it. Burbank as well.
Right.
If Burbank wants to come on here and say we use it because we have so many in high volume and so on and so forth, and it's like, but these are cards that I'm giving you money for, that I don't have to give you money for because this is a hobby.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Again, we go back to Taco Bell. At least we're getting something to fill our bellies and getting some, value. Maybe it's not the healthiest food, but it's still food nonetheless. It's a part of life. Food and drink and shelter and transportation is things that are part of life. It's just, I'm sorry, if you don't take the time to list individually, and I get it's a high volume, and the more I can list, and it's a pain in the rear to scan individually, it is, but at least you have a better chance of taking care of the card that you're selling to me. It's about to be mine. I'd really like to know. And hey, again, educate and inform. Don't block and run. And Bo and I've had our issues in the past. I mentioned managed payments and on a macro level, and he's like, well, it works for me. Good. I'm glad it works for you, my man. Glad it works for you. But on a macro level, it's not a great idea. And I can explain why eBay does it. And I have on this show before, and I have on Twitter, and he starts writing about blogs and completely ignores the general narrative to create his own. Anyway, if Bo wants to come on, he's welcome to. Open invitation to come on and defend your use of this scanner. It's just more in general. It doesn't look good. I like the
concept of it. I obviously can't speak to its application. It seemed to run fine. I mean, that may have just been a demo, and that's why the cards were close to sliding off the table. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
sure.
The cards didn't look super expensive. Just, hey, look at this thing that I got. But
don't post that video then, because we're going to just assume that everything you post for sale now is going through that. Again, optics are optics.
Well,
perception is. I just tweeted this earlier tonight. Perception is not often reality, but perception is people's truths, and a lot of that is individualistic based on your life experiences and how you perceive something, your level of education and understanding and comprehension, and everybody has it, different levels, and Yeah,
and to that point, the caveat emptor, still implies, like, beware. If you're gonna tell people you're using it, just beware that some people may not want to purchase them in that way too.
I mean, looking at it, hey, it looks cool, but once I saw the price tag, I'm like, a little bit out of my mark.
Oh, and that's
$475.
right, and that's a hell of a price to try something. You know what I mean? Like I would love to see
Exactly.
I would love to be in the room with them and actually examine the cards just to see for my own curiosity's sake and because everybody'd like to list faster and I'd like to see 50 or 100 cards that have been run through there.
Sure.
Somebody had made a comment and I don't know if you were part of that part or not there, Ben. I think this might have been the next day that somebody had commented this that those rollers in there they'll only last they thought about what was it 100 200,000 cards before they'd need cleaned or replaced or whatever that they think their professional opinion on the matter was that it wouldn't last only a couple 100,000 cards before it's going to be trouble and my goodness they make 5,000 count boxes you start putting
And
5 or
Lord knows he
10
has
or
plenty with his
sure
million cubs that he's shooting for.
yeah I mean you start shooting 100,000 cards through there what's that look like on a finite level put a magnifying glass up to the only thing I really have handy is some of this garbage Upper Deck Series 2 hockey but
Excuse me.
that's a joke. I really think highly of Upper Deck, but it's got a little shine to
Rude.
it and so forth.
It does.
I'd be real curious to see card number 1 and card number 200, and just to see what's that look like coming through there. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Oh, and
You-
not even that shiny either. But I'm just talking your base. You know what I
Right.
mean? There's a little bit of sheen to that. I mean, you start does that show up on the side like when with the rollers and like
you know what? You
I'd
want
be
to shut
surprised if it didn't.
you want to shut somebody like me up? Cool. Take a couple of cards worth a couple $1,000, $1,000 each, $500 each. Roll 10 of those through there and scan them. And I want to sit next to you and make sure you're not perspiring or chewing your gum a little tougher. And if you can sit there and say, yeah, it's going to scan these, because everybody's like, oh, it's great for low end cards. Yeah, because if you ruin your inventory, no big deal, you're out a buck. Who gives a crap in a sense like that? If it's a good product, if it's a good scanner, it should not matter the valuation of the card. A card is a card is a card. If you want to talk about thicker stock, you don't want to put a National Treasures card through there, and it's just for normal, regular 130 point stock type stuff. Fine, I'll listen to that all day long. But the monetary association with that card or with that, with the cards going through the scanner should matter zero. And the second you start qualifying it, it's good for low end. That's because you don't give a crap about your inventory, and that makes you a shady seller, in my opinion, because how else are you handling my cards after I've exchanged money? Once I give you goods, it's no different than going to the restaurant. I go to the Denny's and I'm saying, hey, let me get this hamburger and fries, and you go get the pancakes and the eggs. I'm trusting that you're going to be in there and not do anything, that you've washed your hands, that you're not spitting in my food, that you have any I've got a goatee. Mike, you got a beard. Steph's got a beard. That we've got the proper
That you have
coverings.
Proper tests going on right now.
Yeah, right now with COVID, that I'm
sure.
I'm trusting a lot of faith in you. Again, I'm exchanging my money for a good and a service. There's a gas station not that far from my house that recently got dinged big time because they were watering down their gas.
Oh, sure.
And so it's like, again, when you're exchanging your money for any type of a good, whether it's a consumable or otherwise, I'm trusting that the seller, the preparer is doing everything they can to handle it with kid gloves, so to speak. And right now, Bo, sorry, buddy, bad example. You're the one that put that information out there. You exposed yourself with the video, and then go on a blocking spree afterwards. It sets you up, especially when cards are flying out of that machine, and don't have anything in place to catch them on the back end. And then everybody, yourself included, it's great for low end. So you don't care about the dollar cards. Anyway,
I'm looking at a top loader right now, and I really don't know. They claim it'll go through. I'd be stunned. I'd really like to see what it would do. I mean, if a top loader would work, and that would quote protect the card, it would be interesting to see. But this is just a regular top loader, and it really isn't that flexible. I mean, I don't see it. Like I'd be very surprised to see if a top loader would go through, and I'd be curious to find out if he did that demonstration or not, like he said
Yeah,
we
and
were gonna see.
if anybody else out there has a scanner like this and uses one to scan their inventory, please let us know about the cards. We would love to hear your personal experiences, and if you do have one and you would like to come on and explain
Or
your personal
demonstrate.
Yeah.
we would absolutely love. And hey, both Biggs and I in our conversation privately, or openly, but on a one-on-one conversation on Twitter, as much as a one-on-one can happen openly, we were just expressing concerns. So we don't have a decision or an opinion on it as much as it just made us go, I don't know about that, especially when you're
I'd love
qualifying
for it to be true. I would love for it to be true. Like,
it.
wouldn't that help everybody? That would be fantastic if it
Right.
was true.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the first thing when I first saw it, I thought, ooh, like the cringe part, like you were saying. But then I thought, well, if it's true, like this could be a game changer.
Now,
But I'm not convinced though. Like I've not seen enough to convince me that it is.
for what it's worth, and this is less dealing with card condition, and I know that a few others have caught up, but my Canon printer that's currently not plugged in. Don't drop the Don't drop the camera. Set
Yeah,
it up.
we've already done that
Nope,
once
lose-
here. Somebody's already done that.
All right, Ben, you're due. At least when you put it in a stack of cards and you arrange them properly, when it scans, it will automatically crop out individual pictures. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
cool. Essentially the
yeah.
same idea, but it takes the time of loading in 9 cards. I think 12 is the max. And then hitting scan. But then I'll get 9 to 12 whatnots that I have to, so sometimes the crop is a little bit overzealous or whatnots, but it's a little bit faster than one.
Sometimes as
Right.
a business, and that's what Bo and other people have now treated this. And Bo
Sure.
quit his day job to do this full time. Hey, good for him. Wish him nothing but the best. But sometimes cutting corners, sometimes trying to shave a little bit off of the bottom line is not always the best business decision.
Sure.
Sometimes taking your time, especially when you're dealing with items that are about to belong to other people, just be careful. So I know we're up against the 2-hour mark here, guys. I did have one more topic. We have a couple more. We're going to have to push to next week, Steph.
Yep.
Steph doesn't usually get too upset, but this topic, blood boils with complaints about print lines. There was a guy at Flagship Cards or something on Twitter. He goes, it's at Joey Villardo. He pulls a downtown Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what those go for, but let's just call it $1,000. And this particular one had a noticeable print line across the center of the card, basically across Lawrence's torso, waist area, where it lined up. And Steph, what are your thoughts on people that complain about print lines and similar printing defects?
So nothing to the seller, and congrats for disclosing that there is one. However, my particular complaint, one, gorgeous card. Congrats, Panini. I love to pose the cats, seemingly the Jacksonville Stadium. But my particular complaint, and from dealing with people on eBay, is that, it's a print line. Shit happens.
Mm.
We've moved a little bit beyond 1970s OPG cards. Sure, cards have nice crisp edges. For the most part, they're centered well. But, things happen in the manufacturing process that are beyond the control of people. Unfortunately, print lines are a thing. If someone's truly going for this Trevor Lawrence, that just means that this is a much more available, both monetarily and collection-wise, card to have. Now, sure, okay, it stinks for this person. but he'll still be able to sell it. It's still a Trevor Lawrence downtown.
Yeah. And there was another
it's not
example.
so much a complaint to him, but as so much as it is as an industry, we need to move beyond. Oh, well, it has a print line, so I'm not going to buy it.
Well, that goes
I
back
need
to
to
the top of the
return
show
this
where,
because it has a print line.
yeah, what's it worth, and should I get it graded? Change your mindset. Just collect, man. You know, not everything is a flip opportunity. And there was another example where a guy says, "Am I screwed?" Happened to be another Trevor Lawrence card, and there was a noticeable print blotch on the card, and apparently he tried to use a microfiber cloth to wipe it off.
Ooh.
And it looks like it's actually part of the picture itself, so it's not going anywhere, bottom line. And it's like, his thought is, am I screwed? It's like, what do you mean, are you screwed? It's a card. Collect. If your mindset is to collect and not to flip, are you screwed? Yeah, okay, dude, you're not going to get as much money for this card as you normally would have. You know, it's right there by his left hip. So as you're looking at the card, it's on the right-hand side of the card. It
almost looks like a Pac-Man ghost and Australia.
Yeah.
And now you won't see it.
And it's noticeable. The print line on the downtown is not noticeable unless you had a chance to see the picture closer. This one is noticeable. Are you screwed? It depends on what you want to do with the card.
Why you fumbled with it. And you know that's a great point that a coworker makes in chat here. My Francisco Alvarez green refractor auto has a big long printer line on the back of mine. I'm still happy to have it. Still an awesome card. That's the right mindset.
Yeah, just collect, man.
Your horn, Sean.
Just collect. It's a nice card. It's a beautiful card. It's got a print blotch. Oh well. And I had tongue-in-cheek printed or sent out page of 1985 Topps Ricky Henderson's. Some were off center, left to right. Some had a print dot on it. And it's like, am I screwed? Is Topps going to do anything about this? Can I sell these? And it's just trying to be facetious and poke fun at the mindset of this. It's like, hey, they're cards. They're designed to collect. Initially.
Well, exactly. And okay, sure. The Babe Ruth, my Babe Ruth relic card doesn't have the greatest corners. It's dinged a little bit because it was a relic for a first line, it may have been rushed, who knows. But I don't care. It's still something connecting to baseball from the 20s and teens and 30s.
And if it's not going anywhere, it's yours.
Even still, I have standing offers for hundreds from certain people that really like to collect that. Or, as again, he points out, my 1-of-1 Tony Esposito Upper Deck Black Quad Patch Auto has flaking on the edges and the corners were not sharp. Still an amazing card and sold for a great price.
Yeah, we talked about that Joe Burrow sometime back.
Not everything's perfect.
The black eye patch one that was numbered out of 10, and it was a gorgeous card with severe flaking. And it's like, well, it's a black card, and we know what black cards do with their infamous, the Conlon collections and the 1971 Topps of the world. Black bordered cards. Gypsy Queen had that issue some years ago with the red and maroon.
I don't see people paying any less for PMGs.
Or any less for 1971 Thurman Munson's.
Sure.
Yeah. So I had one last topic, guys, that I just thought was awesome. I mean, you want to talk about a brilliant way, funny laugh if you didn't see it on my timeline. The shit you see on eBay and Facebook. This is brilliant. Came across this on Facebook, and the guy posted a Bobby Bonilla card for sale for $1.
Did he post it on July 1st?
He says, you want it for $1, or you can break up your payment over 25 payments at 8 cents a piece.
Nice.
And I thought that
like
classic.
A 93 studio. Yeah, you mentioned 93 studio.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if he'd finance it over 25 years, but at least over 25 payments at 8 cents a piece, if that makes you more comfortable. Obviously, just the sarcastic quip against the horrible, well, not in Bobby Bonilla's case, contract with the New York Mets. So quite a bit of stuff, unfortunately, that with Biggs on, and we haven't talked to him in a long time. We were going to go long on a few topics, which of course is amazing.
new PSA president.
All kind-
There's some other major news that we had to cover, but it was next week.
Yeah, the show's almost half written for next week already. So reminder, Brian Bice at Bice Music is running his Sport Lots promotion to raise money for his daughter's hydrocephalus fund at Carmen Fund. You can find Brian on Sport Lots at Brian B03, and he's donating all of the profits to that fund through Halloween, which is this Sunday. Any final thoughts, gentlemen?
I do have one. I will see you guys, whomever. Shoot me a message on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Let me know if you're coming to the show. I will be there all 4 days. Set up at the ComC booth, maybe at Rich's table, somewhere in between. But both me and Angela will be at the show all 4 days in Dallas.
Awesome. Anything from you? Anything from you, Biggs?
Hey, you can follow me anywhere. It's Biggs Daddy Cool. I've got it anywhere that you see it. It's me. Hit me up with anything. I won't go into the intro again, but it's me. I'll be happy to talk to you about anything. I do have about 40 years or more of experience in the hobby, and I'm happy to answer anybody's questions about anything they might want to know.
Yeah, great following. Again, Biggs is spelled with 2 G's if you missed the top of the show.
2G. How did I used to say it?
2 G's, 2 D's,
and 2 L's. Yeah.
So yeah, no, Biggs is a great follow, so please give him a follow. I'm sure everybody out there is already doing so. Next week we have on November 3rd, episode 175, Andrew Renault is going to come back from Bayside Breakers. Remember, we're live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on YouTube. Central. Make sure to subscribe and review. That's right. Our show on all platforms. You can follow us on the Twitter and the Instagram at About the Cards. Steph at Junkwax Twins. Mike at Biggs Daddy Cool. Myself at Our Trading Cards. Please share your hobby stories, great pulls, and send your questions our way. And of course, hey, keep collecting.
See you guys this weekend and next week.